In this tutorial, I'll be demonstrating how you can create this Breakers baseball crest logo using Affinity. The first thing I want to do is set up a new document. I like to work in pixels, so I'll set both the width and height to 1000 pixels. For a logo like this, any square canvas will work just fine, since we want it to scale cleanly, no matter where it's used. I'll also turn on transparency for the background, so I'm not stuck with a white box behind the design later. Once that's set, I'll hit Create. We're working in the Vector Studio, so I'll have Vector View mode toggled on, and also snapping turned on, just like this. We'll start by drawing the basic shape of the shield. Under the Shapes tool, I'm going to look for the Polygon tool. By default, the number of sides here is probably set to 5. Go ahead and change that to 6, then hit Enter. Now, with the Polygon tool selected, I'll snap to the center of the page. You'll know you're there when the vertical and horizontal guidelines pop up. From there, I'll click and drag, then hold Ctrl and Shift, or Command and Shift if you're on a Mac, so that the polygon draws outward from the center point, like this. I'll click here to swap the colors, giving the shape a black fill and setting the stroke to none. Next, let's convert the shape to curves, so we're able to edit its individual nodes. Now, I'll select these bottom nodes and click and drag them downward, holding Shift to keep everything in proportion. Next, let's select the Ellipse tool. I'll snap it to this shape's edge, then click and drag while holding Shift to keep the proportions, snapping it to this other edge as well. Now, I'll move the circle into the polygon, positioning it about here. I'll then select all the shapes, choose the Shape Builder tool, and make sure the action is set to Add. From there, I'll click over these two to merge them into a new shape. We don't need this other shape, so I'll get rid of it. And there we go. We now have this shape, which I think looks a lot like a shield. I just want to make a few tweaks before we move on. First, I'll grab the Node tool and select this top node. Then, while holding Shift, I'll drag it down to about here. That looks much better. Next, I'll switch the shape from a fill to a stroke by removing the fill and keeping only the stroke. Over in the stroke panel, I'll increase the stroke width to around 6.5 points and then change the join to a mitre. I think we can make the stroke just a little thicker, so I'll increase it up to around 7 points. Perfect. Now, since we'll be editing the stroke as a regular shape, let's convert it into an editable vector. To do that, go to Vector, then expand Stroke. Next, let's create the baseball that's going to sit right here on top of the shield. Start by selecting the Ellipse tool. Just like the shield, we'll give it a 7-point stroke with no fill. Then, click and drag anywhere on the canvas. I'm holding Shift plus Ctrl as I drag to keep the circle perfectly proportional while drawing it from the center. I'll just move it over here to give ourselves a bit more room to work. With the circle selected, go to Vector, then expand Stroke to convert the stroke into an editable vector shape. Now hold down Alt, then click and drag to create a duplicate of the circle. Resize this copy into a narrow oval, something like this. Next, duplicate the oval and position the second copy on the opposite side. With all three shapes selected, grab the Shape Builder tool and make sure the action is set to minus. Then, Simply click these two overlapping sections to remove them. Finally, while everything is still selected, click here to merge the remaining pieces into a single shape. And just like that, we've created a simple baseball graphic that fits perfectly on top of the shield. Now let's align the baseball to the center of the document, both horizontally and vertically. Next, open the Layers panel. I want to add another circle, but this one will sit between the baseball and the shield. So I'll grab the ellipse tool, make sure it's snapping to the center of the document, then click and drag while holding Shift plus Control to create a perfect circle, just like this. This time, I only need the fill, so I'll swap the fill and stroke to remove the stroke entirely. To make it easier to distinguish from the baseball, I'll temporarily change the fill to a different color. Now I'll resize the circle slightly until it looks about right. That should work nicely. Before moving on, let's quickly confirm that it's still perfectly aligned to the center of the document. And finally, I'll make sure the shield is also horizontally centered, just to ensure everything lines up perfectly. Finally, select all three shapes and drag them upward to create a bit more space at the bottom, since that's where we'll be adding our next design element. As we move them, notice that we're keeping everything perfectly aligned to the center. Next, grab the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle like this. I'm trying to keep its thickness as close as possible to the shield stroke, so everything feels consistent. Once you've drawn it, change its fill color to black. Now snap the rectangle to the center of the document. Then hold down Alt, click and drag to create a duplicate and position it over here. Repeat the same process to create the remaining rectangles, just as shown. With all the rectangles selected, open the alignment panel. First, align them vertically to the middle, then distribute them evenly, using space horizontally. Once they're evenly spaced, drag the entire group upward and position it inside the pink circle, just like this. Now let's rearrange the layers a little. Select the baseball, then in the Layers panel, drag it all the way to the top. Next, do the same with the pink circle, but make sure it sits just below the baseball. Now go ahead and hide the baseball layer, since we won't need it for this step. With that done, select the remaining objects. Notice that the baseball isn't selected because it's hidden, which is exactly what we want. Next, grab the Shape Builder tool and set the action to -. Then simply click on these sections to remove them. Perfect. That leaves us with exactly the shape we're after. You'll notice there are still 3 small pieces left on the shield that we don't need. Let's clean those up. With the shield selected, grab the Shape Builder tool one more time. Leave the action set to -, then simply click on each of those tiny sections to remove them. Perfect. Now let's split the logo into 2 main parts. First, select the shield. Then, while holding Shift, select these 2 shapes along with the baseball. Over in the Boolean Operations, click Add to merge them into a single shape. Next, select these remaining 3 shapes and click Add once again to combine them into another single shape. And just like that, we've reduced the entire logo down to just 2 clean, editable shapes. Now it's time to add some color to the logo. We'll start with these 3 shapes. In the Fill panel, I'll choose a nice orange, something like this. Then I'll select the other shape and change it to a deep navy blue. Perfect. Now let's move on to the final step. Before we do, I'll reposition the logo down slightly. Next, grab the Artistic Text tool and change the font to Dharma Gothic. I want the text to have a strong, bold appearance, so I'll go with the extra bold weight. Click anywhere on the canvas and type Breakers. With the text selected, increase the font size to about 48 points. Then position it just around here on the logo. I think it could be a little more prominent, so I'll increase the size to around 54 points instead. To improve the spacing, hold down Alt and press the left arrow key a few times to slightly increase the tracking between the letters. Finally, let's align the text horizontally to the center so everything lines up perfectly. I think the text looks better positioned around here. Now I want to create a rectangle that sits over these three orange shapes. So grab the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle like this. Notice that it's slightly taller than the text, with the text sitting nicely in the middle. I'll temporarily change the fill color so it's a bit easier to see what's happening. Next, select the orange shape, then hold Shift and select the blue shape, followed by the rectangle. Grab the Shape Builder tool. Make sure the action is still set to minus, and then click on these sections to remove them. That gives us the cutout effect we're looking for. Now I want the word Breakers to match the same orange used in the logo. To do that, I'll select one of the orange shapes, and here you can see its color code. I'll copy that value, then select the text, and paste it into the Fill Color field. Perfect. That ties everything together nicely. Finally, let's convert the text into vector shapes. With the text selected, go to Vector, then Convert to Curves. This turns the editable text into pure vector paths, making the logo completely scalable and ready for any final adjustments. And there we have it. Our baseball-inspired Breakers logo is complete. Starting from a few basic shapes, we've built a clean, modern sports logo that's fully vector, scalable, and ready to use on jerseys, merchandise, social media, or anywhere else your brand needs to stand out. I hope you enjoyed following along and picked up a few Affinity techniques you can apply to your own projects, from using the Shape Builder tool and Boolean Operations to expanding strokes and converting text into curves. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.